Welcome back to our shop. And this week you get to see us make a cutting board. Now this material that we're using, it's an actual cutout from a sink cutout that we did out of a solid surface countertop. If you look back in one of our previous videos, you can see us doing that. We added a farm sink to a solid surface counter. And this is the cutout from the sink. So you can see us here at the table saw, and with a good sharp carbide tip blade, it cuts through this stuff real nice and easy. And we're just trimming this down, not to any actual size, we're just cutting off all the bad stuff. This material is called Staron, and it's a solid surface material similar to Corian. And this stuff actually is made in Korea. Now it's about a 1/2 inch thick, and like I said before, it cuts real easy on the table saw. So here we have our router set up with a V-groove bit, and we're using the fence from the table saw as a guide, and we're just going to run a detail all the way around the edge of this thing. So we're all done with that one, so we're going to pull the router out and change out the bit and put in more of a rounded detail. And we're going to run the rounded detail around the outside of this on both sides. Give it a nice soft edge. Now you can see that this bit has a guide wheel on the top, and that's why we're not using the fence. It just runs right along the edge of the material that you're routing and cuts in the detail. Now we're going to do the same on both sides of this, the top and the bottom of it, which will give it a real nice edge. Now if you want to see how we set up this router table, you can look back into one of our previous videos, and we actually have a 2-part series on how we made this table saw stand and the router base for it. So now that we're done with all the shaping or the router details, we're back at the bench and we're just using a DA sander and we're polishing out these edges, and then we'll get to the top. You can see that top's kind of beat up, it's got some scratches and stuff in it, and we're going to sand all those out and then buff it back up to its original finish. Now we start with some 220 grit sandpaper, and then we'll work our way up to 320 and then eventually 400 to finish it all off with. And then we'll just use a little bit of a polish to clean up the final, or do the final finish on it. Here you see it's just using some red Scotch-Brite to knock down some of those DA marks. So we spray it with some of our magic sauce, and this is where we take the 320 grit sandpaper, we start sanding it down and dropping, or increasing number of sandpaper, dropping the grit of sandpaper. Now you can start seeing how this cutting board is starting to look better. All the big scratches and gouges are gone, and we're getting it closer and closer to its original sheen. Now we're just working on those edges, getting those back to where they need to be as well. Now this is some polish that we have that it's good for this stuff, and it's important that, you know, we'll use it to polish it out, but then we wash it really good because we don't want any of the leftover polish left on there before we start cutting food on it. It'll get one more wash after this too. Now I'm pretty sure somewhere in here we have some rubber feet that we can screw onto the bottom of this thing. Bingo. Now I don't want to scratch it, so I find the cleanest towel that we have, and yeah, use that as a pad. Now this stuff cuts well and it machines well, however it doesn't really take a screw that well, so I gotta be careful putting these things in that I just don't completely strip them out or chip out the material. That being known, I decided it's better off that I screw these things down with a hand driver, which works pretty good. And that's it, it's done. There it is on the counter. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.